Hello and welcome to Media Mastery Show. My name is Aldwyn Altuney, and it is with great pleasure today that we introduce today Dr. Chris Willems. And we're going to be talking about how to present powerful videos today. Now, Chris is an amazing guy. He's worked in performing arts and TV for 40 years. He's been a mime artist, a TV designer, performer, director, and presentation coach with various commercial and independent productions and TV networks. He's worked with Channel 7, Channel 9, BBC, ABC, and SBS. And he also developed we adapted a solo stage show to TV, which also received great acclaim and won multiple awards. And we'll be talking more about that very shortly. Hello and welcome, Chris.
Hello, Aldwyn. How are you?
Very good, thank you. Thank you so much for joining us today. It's fantastic to have you on the show, Media Mastery Show. And wow, what an amazing life story you have. So let's start at the very beginning and let's look at how you actually started out in the industry.
Well, as it happens, I started in consulting engineering, but I was a musician at the same time, so the music gradually took over from the consulting engineering, which also sent me broke, of course, as an artist. You know, that's what happens.
Right.
But music eventually got me involved in theatre, and theatre eventually took me to London, where I lived for a couple of years, and I studied design for television and also mime and movement. So when I came back to Australia, well, having left as a drummer and a draftsman, I came back as a television designer and a mime artist. And while I was in the UK, I worked for the BBC and learned a lot about television. You know, I was sharing the studio with some of the best television creators on the planet at the BBC, and I learned a lot from doing that. And you know, some of the learning that you have is overt and obvious, and some of it's subtle and you don't realise until later how much you can use that or how you can use that in different contexts. So it was a fantastic experience. But having come back to Australia in the early 80s, since then I've been working as a theatre and television designer and also a performer and director. But I concentrated a lot on mime and movement because that was what I specialised in London. And excuse me, it was a case of putting all of those things together, having created three solo mime shows. One of those, which you mentioned before, Son of Romeo, it was a solo version of Romeo and Juliet, and it was based on Bugs Bunny cartoons. So it was a live show where I played all of the characters, and it was Romeo and Juliet as a comedy with no words. And given that Shakespeare is very much word-based theatre, it was a bit of a challenge, but a good fun one. And the style of movement of Bugs Bunny cartoons and Roadrunner cartoons, I was heavily influenced by that as a child. And when you look at those cartoons, how they move, how those characters move, there's a lot of mime, in fact, in how they move. It's very economical movement and very clearly defined. So there was a good influence to have in terms of style. And so I adapted that to the stage, and then I adapted the stage show. Essentially turned it back into a 1 hour television cartoon, but with a live action person, me playing all the roles, and with cartoon backgrounds, which were painted by a wonderful artist called Nick Stathopoulos, who he didn't win the Archibald, but he got the People's Choice Award for the Archibald last year, not this one just gone, the previous one. So I started the careers of many people, but it took particular kind of television technology, which I'd learned at the BBC, to make that happen. And I kind of set out to prove, consciously or otherwise, set out to prove that yes, you can do mime on television, because I was told all through my mime training, no, you can't do mime on television. But having worked in both, I was able to reconcile those two things with the particular technology of the time and actually make it work.
You've found the changing technology over time? I mean, media has just changed incredibly in that time. And how have you found it, having worked behind the scenes? What do you think of the changes?
It's really interesting because the technology, as you say, has advanced enormously in the last 50 years in terms of television. But in terms of content, it actually hasn't changed that much. If you think about the kinds of shows that we watched as kids all those decades ago, you know, we're still doing game shows and police dramas and all those kinds of things. The quality of the depiction of those stories is much better because of fantastic technology that we have. But it's, in terms of the content, it's really not that different. And so, yeah, I suppose a challenge for me was to utilise television as a medium that could be a really good art form medium. And I mean, I used a lot of blue screen at the time, which was still emerging at the time, but now it's green screen. There's the same principle. They've changed the colour because we don't have green in our skin tones, etc. So green screen technology is now advanced enormously. And it's not only in television, but just about in every movie, the whole CGI thing, the computer-generated imagery. That's just taken off. I mean, if I'd had CGI when I created Son of Romeo, it would have been a lot quicker and a lot less expensive, I would have thought. But it was a groundbreaking thing, and it proved the principle. But the technology has now advanced so much that the principles still apply, but the technology is much better defined.
Yes, it's certainly exciting times now in the world of media, and
it certainly is. Yeah.
How things have changed, and if you don't stay up to date with it, you're going to get left behind, right? So
absolutely,
need to keep up with it. I mean, even this platform, we're using Go Lightstream today, which in the past I've used the Google Hangouts Live on Air platform with this. And as of August 1, about 3 weeks ago, Google decided to get rid of the Google Hangouts Live on Air platform, and now we're trying out different things. And so we're giving this a go today, and we'll see how
we are indeed. And as you were saying that, it just dropped out momentarily. So we're still struggling with the technology to some extent, but it's pretty good, really. The fact that we say we're 100 kilometres apart and we're having this conversation is pretty fantastic.
Yes, it is. Yeah, absolutely. And I can actually see the live stream happening as we're doing this on the dashboard, which is amazing.
Right.
So, and I can manually send you to the live stream, etc. It's just phenomenal what we can do with technology now. Indeed. Now, the topic today is how to present powerful videos. Now, obviously, technology is one part of it, and really, that's it's either fear or the gear that stops people from.
Could be both.
From doing powerful videos. So, what are some tips you have for us around that? I know you've got a few programs. Maybe you could explain a bit about your programs. And
yeah, well, I've got a couple of online programs, but the most recent one called Present Powerful Videos is literally that, how to present powerful videos. And a lot of people assume, and you would know this having worked in media for a long time yourself, you would know this, that a lot of people assume that they need to spend a lot of money getting production companies in to create videos and do all that, and that can be quite off-putting. But these days, we have these things here. I'll put it over the other side so I can see it better against the background. We have smartphones, and literally in your pocket, you have an entire production company. You've got a camera, you've got a monitor, you've got audio recording, you can do graphics and things to some extent, and special effects to some extent, and you've got a distribution network in this thing that's in your pocket. So these days, having talked about blue screen and green screen, the miniaturization of that kind of technology and the advancement of that is just astounding. So literally you can create your own TV channel, which you've actually done. You've created your own TV channel. So in my courses, what I do is I try and get people comfortable and confident and therefore credible when they make professional business videos. And to do that, I mean, I initially look at the basics. I'll go through the basics of what the medium is and what it can do, without getting too technical, because that puts everybody off. And I talk about how it's all about you. It's all about you as a presenter, because as a presenter, if you're doing a business video and you come across not well as a presenter, and in a sense there's no reason why you should, because you haven't been trained in it. You might have the best business in the world, but if you as a presenter aren't confident in coming across on camera, then your business suffers, because people will perceive that your business is not any good just because you're not experienced as a presenter, which is really an unfortunate reality. So it's all about you up to a point. But then the program also looks at your content, how to package that up for this different medium. I mean, I've worked a lot with academics in universities and repackaging their information for online learning and teaching. And these are people who are comfortable talking to 400 people in an auditorium, but you put a camera in front of them, and a camera is a really intimidating thing. It can really freak people out. So these wonderful academics who know so much suddenly become really threatened by the camera, and they sort of, and it undermines their credibility, which it shouldn't, but unfortunately it can. So you got to look at your content, how you package up the information into bite-sized chunks. But then the other aspect of it that's really very important is your context. Where you are, what's surrounding you. I mean, if you're a business that say, I don't know, makes cardboard boxes or something like that, then having you positioned rather than in your office, which is neutral and doesn't say anything, you might shoot a video in front of a box factory or a bunch of boxes going past on a conveyor belt or however they make cardboard boxes. I don't really know, but it's matching the content to the context, and that's a really important thing. It also saves you from having to say a lot of words. So if you show the story as much as tell it, or more than tell it, you have to say less. So it's reconciling those two things, the content and the context. The video is great for it. It's a fantastic medium because it does that so well. I mean, if we look at any television news bulletin, we tend to think that those stories are quite long, but in fact they're really short. They're really short stories, but they will typically, you'll have a presenter like you're sitting there now, who will throw to a reporter at the scene of the train wreck or the kitten being rescued from the stormwater drain or whatever, and they'll be essentially saying the same thing, but showing the pictures just tells the story, so you don't have to say very much, and it can be quite a short video. And that's what I emphasize in my courses. If you do a video, don't do it for 5 minutes or 10 minutes or an hour. I mean, this is different because it's an interview situation, but if you're doing a little marketing or promo video for your website or whatever, 20, 30 seconds, a minute, 2 minutes at the very outside is all you need to do. And once we start taking away that expectation that, oh my God, I need to do a 10-minute video. No, you don't. No one's going to watch it for 10 minutes, no matter how engaging you are. So, having that information, that basic information about how to use and utilize the medium most effectively, it's so important to have that information and go, oh, okay, so I can relax a bit. And then it's a case of getting people comfortable with the camera, or comfortable enough with the camera, that the combination of having the knowledge and going through and working out some techniques to present the camera, it really helps to just ease all that anxiety and fear of the medium. It's the piece of glass. You're talking to an inanimate object, and i.e. the camera lens. When you're presenting live, you're presenting to an audience. You get a feedback, non-verbal and verbal feedback, and you're having a conversation with real people. At the moment, I'm looking at the camera up there, and it's an inanimate thing. I'm just looking at a little green light. So I'm trying to have a conversation with an inanimate object. So I need to make sure that I animate my conversation so it sounds more conversational, and you'd be familiar with that as well, having worked in the media. So it's taking that inanimate object and making it your best friend, not your worst enemy. It's a bit like a microphone. We always hate hearing our voices after we've recorded it on a microphone, and the camera is a visual version of that. It's that kind of, oh my God, how do I talk to a piece of glass? So we watch newsreaders who are very, very skilled and presenters generally who are very skilled at talking to the camera and making it animated and injecting their personalities into that camera and therefore through to the rest of us. So we feel like they're having a conversation with us. And really, and developing that skill is a really big part. And being comfortable feeling a bit silly talking to a piece of glass and yet behaving as if you're having a conversation with a human being when you're not getting the feedback. So you just have to assume that the feedback is coming. People are responding to you, talking through the piece of glass. And I refer to it as a piece of glass because that's kind of less intimidating than saying it's a camera lens. Be very scared. Be afraid. Be very afraid. You don't need to be. It's just a piece of glass.
And a lot of people say also when you're speaking to camera, just think of it as speaking to a friend, or just think of it as one person or one eyeball, one eyeball person.
Absolutely.
Yeah, definitely don't think of it as being, 2 million people out there, as happened to me when I was when I was 11 years of age on Cartoon Connection, about to be interviewed by the host on Channel 7, and
Yeah.
definitely do not want to be thinking of 2 million people watching you if
No,
you're on
no.
TV.
I mean, it's fairly impossible to conceptualize 2 million people watching you anyway. But I think it's great advice to say, well, think of it as a friend. You're having a chat with a colleague or a friend, and you're explaining what you do and how you can help them. Because really, it's about helping people get over that fear barrier, and getting, as I say, reasonably comfortable with the medium, so that when you create a video, you come across as a credible professional rather than a dithering amateur. And it's really unfortunate that we can come across so bad. I mean, in a sense, we can, in the space of 30 seconds, we can undermine professional credibility that we've built up over half a lifetime, just out of a simple lack of awareness of ourselves, our visual environment around us, and how to present our information to that camera lens. And so we're creating a misconception about our professionalism because we don't necessarily have the skills yet to mount a convincing case to a piece of glass. Now, I've seen, and I'm sure we've all seen videos on YouTube that misrepresent effectively, inadvertently misrepresent the quality of an organisation just because the presenter is uncomfortable with the camera, and that's what I do. I try and get people over that anxiety and that fear of the piece of glass. And there are, a lot of what I do is diagnostic, and what I don't do is like a sausage factory approach of everybody's the same. My work is diagnostic at the start, because I need to work out who you are, what makes you tick as an individual, and then rather than try and change what you do or how you speak or how you move, there's a word I use, which is stylisation, and that's a word that's used a lot in the arts, but not so much in the corporate sector. But stylisation is taking how you move and how you carry yourself, and stylising that, so we don't try and change it, but we adapt it slightly and just emphasise one bit or de-emphasise another bit, so that you're comfortable because you still feel familiar with how you're moving and what you're doing, but it's stylised enough just to make that version of you, I call it the stylized version of you, make that version of you work for the camera. It doesn't, it might be another version of you that works for a live presentation or a meeting or whatever. In fact, the concept of the stylized version of you is something that I've trademarked because I've been using it for 17 years in the corporate sector, coaching executives and business owners and some politicians in presenting live and in non-verbal communication, because of my background as a mime artist. Effectively, mime, all it is highly stylized body language. So if you can do mime, you can understand how the body language works, then you can adapt that. It's stylizing that to adapt it to the corporate sector, corporate communication sector. So, the skills that seem disconnected or unconnected at all, like design and mime, and you go, well, I can just about hear everybody thinking, well, what the hell's mime got to do with corporate communication? But really, it's about stylizing body language, so that you have the skills, the range of stylizations that one can adapt to utilise in any presenting context, whether that's live or on camera.
That's very interesting. So with what we're doing now, there's only so much of the body that you can actually see. So what can we pick up about body language with just looking at a very tight shot like this?
Well, the eyes have it, as they say. And again, it's over the years I've come to realise that things, natural movement like gesturing, and I'm gesturing quite a lot at the moment, you may be able to see part of that, but even if you can't see that in the frame, what gesturing does, it animates the face, it animates the eyes, and it animates the voice. If we stop gesturing, and that's part of the thing about talking to an inanimate object, we tend to our voices tend to go flat and boring because we're talking to a piece of glass and we're not getting any response. And so if you keep gesturing as you normally do, even though we can't see the hands, it's animating the body, and it's animating the face, and it's animating the eyes, and it's animating the voice. It's keeping the colour and richness in the voice. And so that's part of the self-awareness that we develop over the course of the program. That developing that self-awareness, so that most people gesture or don't gesture, and they're not even aware of what they're doing. Some people gesture. If I gesture like this on camera, it's really distracting. So I know that I need to. Yes, I need to gesture, but I need to keep that either contained outside the frame or contained in a certain aspect of the frame rather than in front of my face. So, I mean, they talk about mime being exaggerated movement. In fact, it's quite the opposite. It's very subtle and selective movement, and you make sure that you don't move anything you don't need to, because it's going to fuzz up the story and it's going to make the message unclear. So, it's quite ironic that as a mime artist, I use my hands a lot. But if I'm doing mime, it's every moment of every movement is choreographed and stylized. And again, it's that active awareness that we all need to bring to our communication, whether it's on camera or on stage. We need to bring that active awareness to it so that we can go, okay, I know that if I move my hand in a certain way, it's going to be distracting. Or if I do, I call this frightened bunny look. Some people do that, and also have things like white knuckling, where people put their hands together like this when they're presenting, especially live, and they think it looks really relaxed, and it does. But if you've got a lot of tension, your knuckles go white, and there's a dead giveaway that you're not relaxed at all. So there's tiny little details like that go to forming this big picture of how we perceive you as a presenter, live or on camera.
Very interesting. And now I've done quite a bit of public speaking training too, and there's all sorts of tips and tricks around that as well. Like, for example, just centering yourself, having your feet hip width apart, rather than fiddling or swaying left or right. That's something a lot of people do when they're speaking, or having hands around the belly button, or pointing to the boob or the crotch if you're a guy or a girl. Be careful of the way you put your hands,
Absolutely.
trying to make a point. There's so much to it, isn't there, really?
Absolutely. I mean, how you use your hands can enhance your presentation, or it can entirely destroy and distract from your presentation, because we have those unconscious habits. And again, it's that active awareness of making the unconscious habits conscious. So not so that they become stiff and fake, but so that we're aware of what they do and the effect that they have on the audience. And there's an expression that I've stolen from a colleague called fig leafing, and blokes tend to do fig leafing quite a lot, where they put their hands across in front of their crotch. I can't show you that on camera at the moment, but a lot of people do it, and there's some people stand with their hands behind their backs, and I call that reverse fig leafing, because even though your hands aren't covering your crotch, it has the same effect. It restricts your breathing, it unanimates you, and so. But you're absolutely right. Things like how you move on the stage, how you take command of the space, whether that space is a stage or a frame that we're looking at now, taking command of that space is really what we need to be looking at doing. And when I say take command of the space, it's not only those physical spaces or the virtual spaces, it's also the space inside your head. Taking command of the space inside your head that tells you, yes, you can do this. Yes, it's a simple range of skills that one develops, and you take command of all aspects of what you're doing, how you're feeling, how you're looking, how you carry yourself. I use that expression a lot, how you look, move, and carry yourself, because our body manifests how we're feeling at the time. Often we're not conscious of that. So when a lot of the work I do is sussing out how confident or otherwise people are, because that will manifest in how they move. And so if someone's feeling unconfident, whether on screen or on stage, their body will tend to shrink down. They'll try and make themselves small, all those kinds of things. So it's making them aware of how they're manifesting, how they're feeling at any one time, and then going, okay, well, if you're feeling like this and it manifests like that, then if you can reverse that by changing your physicality, and that feeds back into your confidence. So if you lift yourself up, literally lift yourself up physically, I don't know if you're doing that right now. If you lift yourself up physically, then that feeds back into helping your confidence, and it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. If you can lift yourself physically, then that helps you lift yourself psychologically as well. It's and there's lots of research to support that. I've worked with some neuroscientists and coaching them, and what now that they can take pictures of the brain while we're doing things, it's fascinating to see all those good hormones, or whatever they're called, that activate when we physically change, and then psychologically we can see that we improve, that we feel better and we feel more alive and more engaging when we do that.
Some great points there. A lot of people I speak to too, and helping people get their message out to the media, a lot of people have a lot of fear around how they're going to come across on camera, and is it going to look funny, is it going to sound funny, etc. So to be able to relax into that, one thing I say to people is just trust that the right words will come out. And I have a great tip I give people, which is a little prayer that I do, whether it's to Source or God or whatever you believe in. Please let me say what needs to be said. And I just say that and trust that the right words come out, and the more you can take the attention off yourself and onto being of service, the more natural you will come across. And I think the less fear you will have. Do you have any other specific tips? I think that posture is a really good one. Any other specific tips on how people can relieve those nerves?
Well, the slow breathing. You may have heard of square breathing, where you breathe in over 4, hold it for 4, out over 4, and hold it for 4. And those kinds of slow breathing techniques, making yourself breathe slowly, can really, really help. But the other point to make about this is that it's actually good to be a bit nervous. So some degree of nerves is great. As Dame Judi Dench says, I'm sure you've all heard of Dame Judi Dench. She says, nerves are the batteries of performance. And I've used that quote a lot because it's so true. Having a little bit of anxiety and a bit of anticipation helps to energize your performance, your presentation. Whether you call it a performance or not, it's your presentation. And it helps to just give that a bit of extra zing and energy to it. Whereas, there are occasionally people who are so confident that they don't get nervous, but it kind of doesn't work. The confidence doesn't really carry the same level of engagement as a bit of anxiety, a bit of tension, a bit of zing. So having a degree of nervousness is a really good thing. It's a very positive thing, and as I say, it energizes the engagement with your audience. Slow breathing techniques and knowing your material is so very important. Being confident with your content is absolutely crucial, because as you said before, the words will come. If you don't know what the content is well enough, then the words may not come. So being really sure of what you're talking about is so important. And because as coaches or consultants or whatever, or teachers, we need to know what we're teaching. There's nothing worse than trying to teach something that you don't know very well. And I'm sure we've all experienced that horror. So having a really good grasp of what you're saying and how to package it and explain it to your clients, your viewers, is so important, because then it helps to draw them in. It draws them into a conversation. Again, it's that conversation. Well, I know this stuff, but I'm happy to have a conversation about it. And if you've got input as well, please give it to me, because it becomes a two-way conversation. Even if it's on camera, it can be a one-way conversation. Having input eventually with a group of clients or whatever, having that engagement, it's all about engagement. Some people talk about having to be entertaining when you're teaching people stuff. I disagree with that. I much prefer the word engagement. If you can engage people in a conversation, it's much better than feeling like you have to sort of, razzmatazz entertain them. There's a level of one-wayness about that doesn't appeal to me. So know your material really well is so important. Yes, the words will come if you know the material. Even if you have to reframe them a bit, the words will come, and they will be authoritative because you know what you're talking about. Combine that with a confidence and a degree of comfort with talking to the camera, and you'll be an authoritative person about your business, whatever that business might be, whether you're a secretarial service, a plumber, a builder, a high-level CEO, that whole range. The same rules apply, the same assumptions apply. If you know what you're talking about, we will tend to believe you.
Yeah, I love that, absolutely. And no one else knows what you're talking about necessarily. So if you know 10% more than somebody else, you can teach it.
You can tell them anything. You can tell them anything, and they'll believe you. No, I'm joking.
Yeah, well, that's right. I mean, people sometimes when they're speaking, they say, "Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to say that," or we didn't know you didn't mean to say that. So
no, that's right. Well, I was on radio, on the ABC radio yesterday, being interviewed as a kind of a discussion thing, and one becomes very, very conscious of saying the right thing or not saying the wrong thing more than anything, and because it's going out to however many thousands of people, and you go, oh, please don't say the wrong thing, please don't swear accidentally or whatever. And after a while, you settle into the rhythm and the pattern of what you're talking about, of the conversation. And so this is no different. I mean, we're having a conversation now, which is an unrehearsed conversation. We're having a conversation, and you're asking questions. I'm answering them. I'm probably saying too much. I'm probably rabbiting on. It's one of the unfortunate things about talking to a mime artist. Once you start letting them talk, you can't shut them up. But it's an engaging thing. It can be, it's television, or the screen by its nature, the camera by its nature, is a very dehumanizing medium. So if we can retain the level of engagement, the level of humanity in that engagement, it's so important, because it can be a dehumanizing medium. But if we can re-inject the humanity, the humanness into that exchange, it's a fantastic medium for reaching lots and lots of people in a very friendly kind of conversational way. It's great.
Absolutely. And, it's interesting with the change in technology out there and the changing face of media as well. When you think about in 2003, MySpace started. In 2004, Facebook started. And now there's 2.4 billion people on Facebook out of 7.5 billion people on the planet. That's nearly a third of the world's population on Facebook alone. And active social media users now, there's about 3 billion social media users. So that's nearly half the world's population. And with all of that,
astounding.
It's unbelievable. And now with all of that, 80% of all online communication is via video, as we've got in our show notes. 80% of all online communication is video. So in some ways, we're more connected than ever before, and in other ways, we're more disconnected than ever before. And I think with video, one of the powerful things about it is you're inviting people into your living room or into your space, and it is like watching live TV now on computers, and this is the way more and more viewing is happening now, is on mobile devices and on laptops, is how people are consuming their video content or TV content. So in saying that, I think it's a great medium to actually build trust with people that you're working with, or people you want to, build a following with or get a message out to. Having video content out there is a great way to build trust, because there's also multi-billion-dollar industry now with online scammers, right?
Absolutely, yeah. Yeah.
So, and with that, you'll know with online scammers, and anyone who's done online dating, if someone doesn't want to show their video, it's very suspicious, right? So, having someone's face there that you can actually see, it does connect you in some ways. And I think it is, it really is quite a game changer, I think, nowadays, to be doing a video. What are some other reasons people will want to be doing a video?
Oh, look, it's actually, you're absolutely right, Aldwyn. It's crucial. It's not just important. It's absolutely crucial, with more than 80% of all communication online being via video. And if you're a business, like I put up these short videos on LinkedIn and Facebook. They're called 1 minute micro masterclasses, and they take little aspects of my course and just as little, not teasers, but just little hints of information to help people get over that fear. And they're only 1 minute. That's what they call 1 minute micro masterclasses. They're generally around about a minute long, and you can tell an awful lot in that. And the thing of knowing, liking, and trusting someone, and the whole problem of scammers, you're absolutely right. If you can see a person's face, if you can have a conversation, even a virtual conversation with them, you start to know them, you hopefully start to like them, and you certainly start to trust them if you like what they're saying. And if they come across as credible, then that's a great thing, and you'll happily engage more and more with that person, whether it's a business relationship or conversation you're having, or a personal one. And I mean, I must confess, I haven't done the speed dating, but I imagine that kind of notion is heightened, is magnified a lot, because you've got to really trust someone that you potentially might go out with, and so it's very, very dangerous to even consider, connecting with someone who you've got a bad feeling about. And we can get a feeling from someone on camera, even though it's dehumanized. We can still get a sense of what they're like. And I mean, a lot of human beings are fascinating creatures. You know, we read body language, whether we consciously or we read body language all the time, 100% of the time. And so even through the dehumanizing lens, we can get a sense, still get a sense from how people engage with us on camera, how they use their eyes, whether we trust them or not. And trust is increasingly important. Yeah, we no longer trust politicians. We no longer trust anybody who rings us up pretending to be from Telstra or Optus or the NBN or the tax office or whatever. We simply don't trust them because we're immediately suspicious. So video, again, is a great medium because we have to see what they look like. I'm on LinkedIn, and there are a lot of people on LinkedIn. I forget how many billions there are, but there's quite a lot. And occasionally someone will put themselves up on LinkedIn but not put a photo, and that's their choice. That's absolutely fine. But I'm always hesitant to connect with someone, even if they've got their description in there, what they do. I'm always hesitant to connect with someone who doesn't put their photo up, just because I want to see who I'm talking to. I want to see the human being behind the role, the business, whatever. And other people may not have that problem that I sort of seem to have. I need to see a face. I need to see a human being, not just a question mark. So again, video is the perfect medium for that. And that's why I put my micro masterclasses up on LinkedIn, because I want to connect with other professionals who may see the advantage in using video, but are a bit freaked out by it, or just hesitant to, because they maybe don't believe that it's that important. I'm trying to convince people that yes, it is important, and you as an executive, a CEO, a professional, a business owner, an entrepreneur, you need to be aware that you need to do this, and you can do this. It's not that hard. It might be a bit scary at first, but it's once you get over the fear, it's not that hard, and you can. I always say to people clients who I'm coaching, it's not just a case of getting used to the spotlight. It's a case of getting to the stage of actually enjoying the spotlight and losing the big chunk of fear about being in the spotlight. Because once you're there, if you know what you're doing, if you're confident with your material, you start to enjoy it. You think, oh, that went over really well. That's a bit of a buzz. That's a bit of an adrenaline hit. And it's just those good endorphins start to come out. You go, oh, that's pretty good. I like that. I'll do it again. So that's part of what I do, is trying to get people to that point where they actually enjoy it rather than going, oh, I hate presenting. If you start with that notion, yes, we all do. If you start with that notion, though, then it's going to be a bit tricky to get to the point where you actually enjoy it. But I mean, that's the immensely gratifying thing about teaching people anything, about coaching people. It's not just a case of giving them information. It's a case of working out who they are and how to apply this information to that particular human being. And then when you see them implement it and apply it, and it works, it's so gratifying. It's almost selfish how gratifying it is to see clients make that leap, because then yes, you've got it now. You know what you're doing. You know how to embody what I'm saying and make it work for you. And it's an immensely gratifying thing.
It's fantastic. It's also a great way to leave a legacy. And, one thing I'm really passionate about is getting more good news stories out in the mass media to help decrease depression, anxiety, suicide rates, and lift people's spirits out in the world. And now with so many media outlets out there, online and offline, we are able to share our messages and share our stories like never before, which is very exciting. I've had 4 friends who have taken their own lives, and there was no video of any of them out there, and yet hundreds of people at their funeral. They didn't get how much they were loved, and there was nothing there where we could actually see a video and remember them through video as opposed to photos. They say photos are worth 1,000 words and videos worth 1,000,000 words.
Absolutely.
It's really a great way to capture people's stories and to capture people on camera, so that family and friends, down the track can remember someone by. I mean, the fact is, we never know when any of us are going to go over the other side, so to speak.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, while you're alive and looking great, and, they say you never look quite as good next year as you do this year, unless you're amazing anti-aging products, generally you better seize the moment now while you're still, young or youngish, and you have the energy to do it. So to leave a legacy is really important, and also to look at video, and I think business too, as a way you can impact the wider world as well. I think that's really important. Can you talk a bit about that, about how important it is to have a social cause or something beyond yourself and beyond your business that you're actually also working for, rather than just the money, so to speak?
Well, indeed, and again, what you say is absolutely vital information, because the whole notion of the whole problem of depression, anxiety, suicide, it's something that's very close to my heart as well, and it's something that we're overwhelmed, we're bombarded with and overwhelmed by the bad news that we see every day in the news. There's always a war or a death or something that's horrible, and so I've actually quite recently taken the decision to absolutely minimise how much I look at the news. I'm a bit bitter and twisted about corrupt politicians. There seems to be so many of them. So I've chosen to ignore them and just to a large extent. You can't totally ignore them because we live in a social world, a social construct that's run by politicians. But you're right. We need more good news than we have at the moment, and often we select the news that we view or consume, so we can select good news. I mean, I have a cause that I quite like. When I was touring as a mime artist and as a theatre actor many years ago, I went to several Aboriginal communities, and I was very disturbed by some of the issues and problems that Aboriginal communities have, and one of them is eye problems, trachoma. And I'm a supporter of the Fred Hollows Foundation in whatever modest way I can at any one time. But that's something that I saw firsthand, and the trachoma was a big problem, and it's a preventable disease. And so I'm keen to contribute in some way or ways that I can to alleviating that, or hopefully getting rid of it altogether, curing trachoma, making it redundant, making trachoma redundant in those remote communities. And because it's a preventable disease, then we should be able to do something about it. And I don't know whether governments are doing anything about it or enough about it to make it to rid those communities of that disease. But things like the Fred Hollows Foundation and people like that, and those people out in the remote communities who are doing a lot to help those communities, I just think it's fantastic. And we're human beings. We need to help each other wherever we can. And it's not just about making money. It's about surviving and supporting your family and all that sort of stuff. But it's about what you contribute. And you used the word legacy before, and I think it's so important that one contributes to the society in which one lives. And if we can contribute, we are to some extent privileged. So if we can help out other communities that are not privileged, I mean, just outside of here, I walk past a home. There's various homeless people, which is very sad. And one of these homeless people has a dog, and it's so heart-wrenching to see them lying there in this alcove in the street, cuddling each other, the dog and the bloke cuddling each other. It's immensely disturbing, and Brisbane should not be like that. None of our cities should be like that. And whatever we can do to help out and alleviate those kinds of social problems, social issues, then we need to do that. We need to I used to, in terms of volunteering, I used to be, because I toured a lot over the years under the auspices of the Queensland Arts Council. Many, many decades later, I found myself being on the board of the Queensland Arts Council, and in fact, I was chair of the Queensland Arts Council. And the Arts Council used to go out to regional communities and take fantastic shows out to those communities, and having toured myself, I knew exactly what that was like and how important it is to those communities. Unfortunately, various governments cut our funding by 90%, and so we eventually had to fold after 55 years of really good regional service to those communities. unfortunately, everything's political. Bureaucrats go, "Oh, you need to save money." Politicians go, "You need to save money." The arts is the first thing to go, and yet, those same politicians get paid lots of money to fix problems, and not enough of them do. I've got a bit of a thing about politicians at the moment. I should probably shut up in case there's some politicians watching. But it's really important that there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of resentment about politicians, and because they're not authentic. I mean, Tim Fisher just passed away, and he was one of the very few really authentic human beings who was a politician. Whether you agree with him or disagree with him, he was an icon of ethics and integrity. And so, I think that's really sad that someone like him, has passed away, but also there doesn't seem to be anybody else that I can see that's of that same kind of ilk. My criteria for whether I work with clients or not is whether they demonstrate ethics and integrity. Because for me, whatever their message is, if that message is, if they're coming from a place of ethics and integrity, I will very gladly help them impart that message to their stakeholders, whoever they need to talk to. Very happy to do that. But if I don't like the feel of someone, if I don't trust what they're saying, and if they're not genuine, then I just won't work with them. I've been around long enough and have worked with people. Most of my clients over the last 17 years, hundreds of clients, I've only had one client that I didn't like, that I didn't get on with, that I didn't want to work with again. Most people are pretty good, really. But you've got to be selective about who you work with and whether you invite them into your program or not, because you can be sure that if you just do it for the money, that it's not going to work, and you won't feel good about it. Yes, you might do a good job for them, as good as possible, but there's something richer about a relationship, an interactive relationship, client, coach, whatever. There's something about that relationship that's very, very special. The word sacred is probably too strong a word to use, but there's something intensely human about it. It's an emotional connection that you have to have, otherwise you can't really do the work. So you have to connect with people as a human being, and a compassionate human being of ethics and of integrity. That's all the only people I want to work with or will work with.
Yes, absolutely. That is absolutely crucial now when it comes to trusting people. I mean, the beauty is if you have your own business, you can choose your clients, right? So that's a great benefit of it. And talking of having your own clients, now you've got this amazing Present Powerful Videos program. Can you share some of the top tips you have in your Present Powerful Videos program for our viewers, please?
Absolutely. I mean, as I kind of briefly explained before, it's all about you and explaining how the medium works and how you, as a presenter, might fit into that most effectively for your business. We look at your message and how to package up that message so that your content actually gets across without being distracted by waffly stuff that you don't need to talk about. That's all in your head, and you think it's really important. But yes, it is. But packaging that, making that concise is the crucial factor. And I talked about your context, your visual context. One of the things I look at and help people with is developing what I call their visual vocabulary. It doesn't mean you have to be a television designer or anything like that, but just being aware of your visual context and developing that visual vocabulary. For instance, one of my minute micro masterclasses that I put out a couple of weeks ago, I was in my car. I deliberately parked so that it looked like I had a tree growing out of the back of my head because there was a tree in the background. So my message in that 1 minute micro masterclass is, whatever you do, don't have a tree growing out of the back of your head. And so again, it's that developing that awareness, that active awareness of the visual context in which you are presenting, and how that can enhance the words that you're saying, how that can enhance the message that you're trying to impart. I mean, at the moment, I'm in Brisbane City. And so if I'm working in the corporate sector, I can have a background of the cityscape of Brisbane or any other city. If I was working with say, a regional authority or whatever, I might well have a background of the local town or or some outback footage of driving along or whatever. So those kinds of things, just developing that sense of the visual that helps to enhance and support the words that you're saying is really important. So the other thing I talk about in the course and help you set up is your own business TV channel. Because as I said, with these devices here, you have your own channel there, and all what you're doing is literally having your own TV channel. And so you've got the power behind a network effectively in your pocket. As putting all that together, and the words putting it all together is a big part of what I do. How to get you comfortable, how to get you knowledgeable about the medium, how to get you to utilize the medium in the most effective way possible. And the more you do that, the more options you realize there are out there to use that medium. So you don't need someone like me to keep telling you what to do. You start to realize, oh, I can make a video about X, Y, Z, and that will work. I'll do that over there. And so you start to build your own knowledge base of how to use the medium. And also I talk about shooting stock footage. I mean, again, you walk around with an iPhone, it's got a fantastic camera in it. And so you can gather stock footage as well, and start to build a stock of footage that you utilize and drop into your videos. So they're the kinds of things that I do.
Fantastic. That is so useful, and would be so great with for business people, entrepreneurs, etc. And when it comes to actual content, how would you suggest that people format their content, or how would you suggest they start with that?
It's really a case of you write yourself a script. A script is, you might say, well, why would I need a script? I know this stuff so well, I'll talk about it till the cows come home. Trouble is, that's what we do. We talk about it till the cows come home. So you need to get a script and try and dot point it and make it conversational rather than necessarily reading a script as such. Try and make it conversational. Dot point, you know your material. You know what you're talking about. So just dot pointing it to have a sense of say the three things you want to talk about. Try not to go over three. Because then you can talk about it concisely and keep your videos short. Don't go over 2 minutes max. Try and just try it. You've got your phones, you can do it in the comfort and privacy of your own home. Just try it out. Write yourself a script and make yourself a couple of short videos and see how you go. And if you need help, come and talk to me. But really, just get used to chunking it down into small bite-sized chunks. And that's really the first best thing to do.
I heard a video expert once say, start out with doing 10 short videos of frequently asked questions and 10 short videos of should ask questions, about 2 to 3 minutes each. And I thought, well, that's a really good tip, because everyone can answer those kind of questions quite easily, and it's a great way to get content out there very fast as well.
Yeah. That's fantastic advice. It's really good. I might borrow that one. But and having, you could very easily create 10 short videos. But if you try and create, you're better off creating 10 1-minute videos than one 10-minute video, because that's just going to become tedious and you'll trip over words or whatever. Just make them short. Make a lot of them. Yeah, make them short.
Yes, great tip there. And you've also worked with some amazing high-profile politicians, senior corporate executives and TV hosts, including Robin Bailey and Larry Emder, which is very exciting. Could you describe a bit about what it's like working with some high-profile people? Do they have the same kinds of fears that other people have when it comes to video presenting?
Well, I haven't coached Larry, but he's a very experienced presenter, and he and I actually set up a presenter's course some years ago, and we worked together to put that together and facilitate it, and it was great. And so Larry's sort of kind of seen my work firsthand, and when you work with the politicians and corporate people I've worked with, I can't name who they are, obviously for confidentiality reasons, but I've worked with quite a lot of them over the last 17 years, and it's great working with professionals. It's a really good thing. I mean, everyone in a sense is a professional in their own field. But it's also interesting to see the insecurities that dog people, that all of us have their insecurities, no matter how high profile we are, no matter how high achieving we are. Everybody has their insecurities. I mean, there's a famous story of John Lennon vomiting before he got on the stage at Central Park. I mean, you couldn't get any more high profile than someone like John Lennon, and yet he was still crippled by fear before he went on. Everyone has anxieties, insecurities, and it's working. And the astounding thing is working with CEOs and people that often people who become CEOs have been very good at their jobs, technically accountants or lawyers or whatever, and they become CEO because they're good at their job. They become CEO. Okay, great. And it takes them a while to realise, and sometimes they have to be reminded that they now have an entirely different job. It's no longer about being a really good accountant or lawyer or whatever. It's now about communicating. Because being a CEO, being an entrepreneur, it's about communication. It's no longer so much about technical proficiency. It's about how you communicate what you do and what your business does, especially if you're the CEO of a business with 100 people or 10 people or 1,000 people. You are the personification of that organisation. So what you do and how you come across is absolutely crucial. So it's important to realise that when you become the leader of an organisation, that it's about communicating what the organisation does. It's no longer about just making sure the organisation does its job. It's about communicating how good you are, how proficient your organisation is. As I say, you are the personification of your organisation. So it's important to keep remembering that, keep reminding yourself of that fact. No matter how you might be screaming inside going, oh my God, I hate presenting. But remember that you are, how we see you is how we see your organisation.
Yes, some great tips there. Now, we only have a few minutes left on this show. Can you believe an hour has just gone so quick? It's crazy. Wow. We can keep on chatting, no doubt, Chris. So it's been really fantastic chatting with you. Now, if people want to get a hold of your Present Powerful Videos program, where can they go?
They can contact, there's a link to a webinar. You can contact me directly via LinkedIn or Facebook through Arts Media Consultants or my personal Facebook page. I have an email address which is drchris@artsmediaconsultants.com. I'll just repeat that, drchris@artsmediaconsultants.com. So email me or get me via LinkedIn or Facebook. And more than happy to have a chat. I'd be delighted to have a chat and to see if I can help people with their issues of presenting. It's as I said before, it's kind of almost selfish. The gratification that one gets from helping people become better communicators. It's a gratifying thing. And so please feel free to contact me. My 1 minute micro masterclasses are on once a week. I'll put a new one out on LinkedIn and Facebook. So just do that. Get in contact with me. Be more than happy to have a chat and help out wherever I can.
Fantastic. And what does the future hold for you now, Chris?
Oh, look, I love doing what I'm doing. People ask me if I'm going to retire. I'm going, no. Why would I want to retire when I can have get so much pleasure and enjoyment and professional gratification out of doing what I'm doing? I mean, one of my other lives, I'm also the Director of Higher Education at the Australian Performing Arts Conservatory, so I'm dealing with young students all the time, at the same time as I'm dealing with more mature professionals in the consulting space. And I love both of those things. They're both gratifying in different ways. And I'm also still a musician. I record and play music from time to time. So my life is very rich. I have a family that I love. My wife's just finished a master's degree. So there's a richness about what people like us do, because we're passionate about what we do, and we're hopefully engaged professionals in a number of professional contexts. So I had no desire to retire or anything like that. I love doing what I do.
Well, that is fantastic to hear. And what specifically do you love about working with clients? What gives you the biggest buzz?
Oh, just seeing them make that leap. You just go, oh, yep, that's it, you've got it. And you might need to adjust a bit of tweaking here and there, but fundamentally when they make the leap, you go, yes, that's the moment. That's the moment. And there's nothing better. There's no better. The only better feeling is being a solo mime artist, spending an hour on stage without saying a word and getting a standing ovation at the end of it, and you've held that audience for that long without saying anything. That's pretty gratifying. But this is gratifying in a kind of different way. coaching other people to see them make that leap and have those moments. It's a fantastic feeling, and it's so enriching for both the client and for the coach. As you would know yourself, it's just such a buzz when people get it right and you go, yes, that's it, you've got it.
Well, that is fantastic, Dr. Chris Willems. You certainly have got it. I must say you are doing a great job there with what you're doing, and what a great program. So for people watching this, definitely connect with Dr. Chris Willems. Any final words before we wrap up the show, Chris?
I better not babble on. Being a mime artist, I tend to. Look, honestly, believe in yourself. Believe that you are able to do it. Yes, you might need some techniques and some hints and some guidance and some coaching, but fundamentally believe that you can do this. It's you're having a conversation. Continue to have the conversation. Just because you're doing it through a piece of glass, make the conversation engaging. So that's my best advice.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Dr. Chris Willems. And there is a link in the show notes here too to go and check out his webinar as well and connect with him on LinkedIn and Facebook. Anywhere else?
That's about it, I think. Or email Dr. Chris at artsmediaconsultants.com. Just send us an email. I'm a Doctor of Creative Industries, and part of my doctorate was applying how to apply mime skills to the corporate communication context. So unlike people who do a doctorate and then have a career, I've done the reverse. I've had a career and then done a doctorate. I've turned the practice into theory rather than theory into practice. So I like to think that my practice-led doctorate is one that's relevant and useful. So that was always my plan. I didn't want to write 100,000 words that only 2 people ever read. It's practical, it's applied skills and knowledge, and I know it works. So it's just formalised what I've been doing and what I continue to do.
Thank you so much, Dr. Chris Willems, for being on the show today, Media Mastery Show. It's been an absolute pleasure chatting with you, and thank you so much for all those great tips on how to present powerful videos today as well. And for those watching this, thank you so much for watching. What did you think of the show today? We'd love to see your comments. Just pop some comments under this video wherever you're watching it, on social media or online. And I'd love to hear any feedback, any comments, suggestions, any other tips that you might have on how to present powerful videos. We're open to hearing that as well. And make sure you subscribe if you haven't already on Media Queen TV, Media Mastery Show. There's 18 other episodes of this now on Media Queen TV as well. So this is the 19th show, and it's been fantastic to connect with Chris, who's in Brisbane, and I'm on the Gold Coast, about an hour south in Australia, in case you're wondering, in Queensland, Australia. I am known as the Media Queen. I say the Media Queen from Queensland. It's quite funny that I live in Queensland.
Good one. We like that.
And you can connect with me too. Just look up Aldwyn Media Queen. You'll find me on Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, Pinterest, Instagram, YouTube, of course, LinkedIn. Yeah, LinkedIn. Anyway, right across social media, just Google it and you'll find me. Let's connect and let's stay connected with video and use the powerful video format in your own marketing, and also to help share your message and leave a legacy. And of course, Chris is the guy to help you with that. So make sure you check him out, and we'll connect again soon. Remember to always shine your light bright and light up those around you. I believe in the power of one, and I believe in you. You can do it. As Chris says, you can do it, and go out and make the difference that only you are here to make. Thank you so much for joining us once again, and we'll see you again online soon.